Porn doesn't usually destroy a marriage overnight, and that's precisely what makes it so dangerous. Because if the consequences showed up immediately, most people would stop, right? If the first time you consume porn, your confidence dropped, your motivation completely disappeared, your intimacy suffered, and your relationship began to unravel, the cause and effect would be so obvious. But that's not how the neurological hijacking works. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. Unfortunately, it's gradual, incremental, almost invisible while it's happening. It works like this. You still go to work. You still love your wife. You still provide for your family. You show up for birthdays, vacations, and dinner conversations. From the outside, everything may look relatively normal or maybe even great. But beneath the surface, the brain is adapting. And over time, that adaptation can begin to miswire your reward system in your brain. That's why I often tell people that porn rarely takes the marriage first. It takes tiny pieces of the man first. A little bit of his attention, a little bit of your presence, a little bit of your motivation, a little bit of your capacity to fully engage with the people that you love most. The changes are often so subtle, you don't notice them at first. Your partner, they may notice them a little bit, or they might not. But your brain is slowly learning where to direct its reward circuitry, what to pursue, what to value. And then one day, something feels different. The conversations, they don't hit the same. They're not as engaging. The connection doesn't feel as alive as it used to. The excitement isn't where it used to be. The things that once brought you meaning, fulfillment, and genuine satisfaction begin generating a weaker signal than they did before. Not because you stopped loving your family, not because you consciously chose disconnection, but because the reward system was gradually hijacked and your brain began assigning value in ways that no longer align with what you truly care about. Okay, so now let me show you what that hijack actually is, because porn is usually not what is fueling the fire all day, every day. Pornography is often where the largest hijack ends up. The hijack is bolstered, though, through excessive artificial dopamine spikes from the screen. And despite what most people have been told about dopamine, it isn't just about pleasure. It's actually more so about motivation, anticipation, reward prediction. It's the neurological system that's constantly asking, what matters? What should I move toward? The problem is that the modern world has figured it out. They figured out how to capture your system, my system, everybody's systems, scrolling, sexualized social media, gaming, sports betting, endless streaming, online drama of all sorts, explicit content of all kinds. They all use the exact same formula: novelty, anticipation, uncertainty, and stimulation. The brain pays attention. The brain learns. Over time, the reward system begins to adapt. It starts prioritizing intensity over meaning, fast rewards over earned rewards, stimulation over connection, consumption over creation. That, my friend, is the hijack. And it becomes a hijacker in your life, like a car hijacker that disrupts your journey, takes the wheel right out of your hands. In this case, the brain slowly becomes conditioned to expect instant gratification from the screen, rather than delayed gratification from your real life, from your work, your purpose, your hobbies, your relationships, your marriage. And most men don't realize it's happening. They don't notice that the hijack is happening every single time they reach for their phone, opening another tab, looking for another dopamine hit. They notice it later. When motivation feels off, when focus is declining, when intimacy changes or doesn't show up, when real life no longer feels as rewarding as it once was, that's usually when they realize there's a problem. Not when the hijack begins, but when the consequences finally show up, when the hijacker is fully in control. And this is the part that men never see coming. The first thing that porn changes is not sex. It's not intimacy, not yet, at least. It's attention. Attention gets hijacked first, because once the brain becomes conditioned to novelty, speed, stimulation, and anticipation, real life starts feeling comparatively quieter. It only can, right? Conversation feels slower, too slow. Presence becomes harder, more difficult. Sitting with one thing, one person, one moment requires more effort than it used to. The hijacker, you know what he wants. He wants more and more and more. So let me ask you something, and this might be a little telling, if you know what I mean. Have you ever stopped at a red light and instinctively reached for your phone, unconsciously? Have you ever felt the urge to check a notification before you've even finished the task that's in front of you? Maybe you've caught yourself scrolling without even realizing you picked up your device. That pull matters, because that pull is the hijack in motion. And if that's you, this is important. It's not simply a discipline problem. It's an attention problem. It's a reward system in the brain problem. Your brain has learned to seek stimulation, and now it's asking for it constantly. That's when many men start realizing something very important. This isn't just about porn. Okay, it might look like this. Your wife is talking, and halfway through the conversation, you realize you haven't been listening. Sound familiar? Not because you stopped loving her, not because you don't care, but because your attention system has been trained. It's been trained somewhere else. And once attention shifts, everything else starts to shift with it. You become more distracted. You become less present, less patient. You're more easily irritated. Real life begins to feel flatter than it should, not because there's something wrong with your life. Many people start to think something's wrong with my life, but it's because your brain has been accustomed to rewards that arrive instantly, effortlessly, and on demand at very high levels. And compared to that, real life can start to feel like it's moving in slow motion. That's when the hijack stops being something you do on a screen, and it starts becoming something that affects how you experience your entire life. I cannot tell you how many men sit across from me on Zoom, because I work with people all over the world, and say some version of the same thing. Dr. Trish, I really love my wife. I'm attracted to her. I want to be with her. So why does desire feel different? Why can't I feel the way I want to feel? Why can't I perform the way that I used to? And what I tell them is this: you didn't wake up one day and suddenly become this way. Your brain has adapted to inputs that it was repeatedly given. That's what brains do. They learn, they change, they rewire themselves based on repeated experience. The problem is that most men have been given the wrong explanation. They think it's a morality problem, or maybe it's a motivation problem or a willpower problem. Some are even told it's a relationship problem. They start questioning themselves, their partner, or their marriage. But very often, what they're experiencing is something much more neurological than they realize. The reward system has been hijacked. The arousal pathways, they have become miswired. The brain has gradually learned to associate excitement with novelty, intensity, and constant stimulation rather than connection, presence, and true intimacy. Not because the man doesn't love his partner anymore, and definitely not because he's broken, more because he's stuck, but because the brain is always adapting to the environment it experiences most often. So this is where everything changes, because once you understand this underlying mechanism, you can stop making it a character issue. You can stop asking, what's wrong with me? And instead start asking this vital question: what has my brain learned? That's a far more empowering question, because if the brain can be hijacked and miswired, it can be rewired. If it can learn one pattern in the wrong direction, it can learn a new one in the direction of your best life. And when men understand that, they often feel something they haven't felt in a very long time. Hope. Pragmatic hope, I call it, because you have to do the right stuff. Okay, so moving on to the miswire, which is what I call the 3A health crises, because once the brain gets hijacked, something usually becomes miswired. Most often, it's one of these three things: attention, anxiety, or arousal. Attention becomes scattered and novelty seeking. The brain starts craving what's new, what's next, and what's most stimulating. But then anxiety quietly begins dysregulating the nervous system too, showing up as irritability, restlessness, overwhelm, emotional disconnection, or a feeling that you can never really fully settle down, a brain that doesn't turn off. And then there's arousal. This is where the brain's reward threshold starts to shift. What once felt exciting, engaging, and meaningful no longer creates the same response. This is what I call the desensitization gap. The gap between the level of stimulation your brain has become accustomed to and the level of stimulation that real life naturally provides, which is lower. Because real intimacy, it stays human, it's slower, it's relational, it's vulnerable, it requires presence. Real people do not provide endless novelty, nor should they. And real relationships, they don't deliver a constant stream of dopamine spikes. That means that many men find themselves thinking, I love my wife, I'm attracted to her, but why does something feel so different? So here's the reframe that I really, really want you to hear. You didn't lose your drive, nor did you lose desire. You didn't lose your ability to connect. Your brain simply and effectively learned to direct those systems somewhere else where it was trained. And the hijacker, he's capitalizing on this. But the good news is that what has been miswired can in fact be rewired. And once you understand the mechanism that's underlying it, you're no longer stuck wondering what's wrong with me. You can start building a path back to the man that you want to be, back to that life that you desire and you deserve. Research has shown that higher pornography consumption is, in fact, associated with changes in brain regions that are involved in motivation, reward processing, and decision making. So we're particularly talking about the striatum. It is a key part of your reward system that helps to determine what your brain finds valuable, rewarding, and worth pursuing. Researchers have also found that there's weaker communication between the reward system and the prefrontal cortex. That's the area of the brain that's responsible for self-control, for healthy, beneficial judgment, and for long-term thinking. Why does this matter? Because the reward system doesn't just determine what feels good. It determines what feels important. And over time, the brain can begin shifting its priorities. It starts favoring short-term stimulation over long-term fulfillment, immediate reward over meaningful reward, fast dopamine hits over deeper satisfaction. And that's why this conversation is so much bigger than pornography. Because once the reward system gets hijacked, the effects don't stay confined to one area of your life. They start showing up in motivation, attention, relationships, emotional presence, and even your ability to pursue the things that matter most to you. Now, let's talk about what this looks like neurologically. When the brain becomes chronically overstimulated, we often see in a QEEG brain map what I call strained brain. It's excessive high beta activity. The brain becomes overactivated, hypervigilant. It's constantly searching for the next source of stimulation. Unfortunately, it keeps that hijacker in control. He's always scanning, always seeking, always anticipating what's next. But the brain wasn't designed to sustain that state forever. Eventually, the system starts running out of resources. That's what I call drained brain. In drained brain, we see less healthy alpha regulation, less calm focus, less emotional presence, less capacity to feel fully engaged in life and to enjoy it. This is why so many men say things like, I feel wired but tired, or I don't feel like myself anymore. I'm here, but I'm definitely not fully present. Because the issue isn't simply fatigue. The brain has truly lost its ability to regulate itself efficiently. And when regulation declines, attention, anxiety, motivation, and arousal often decline right along with it. Okay, so here's a line I would love for you to remember. Porn doesn't usually take men away physically at first. It takes them away mentally first. And honestly, I think this is the most heartbreaking part for everybody involved. Most men never intended for this to happen. They love their wife deeply. They truly want connection. They really want to be present, engaged, and fully alive in their relationships and their own well-being. But somewhere along the way, the reward system got hijacked, and that hijacker is in there. Their attention was redirected. Their motivation was redirected. Their arousal was redirected. Not all at once, slowly, gradually, almost imperceptibly, until one day they realize they're physically present, but mentally they are somewhere else. And that's why understanding these mechanisms really truly matters, because what looks like a relationship problem is often a reward system problem first. The brain learned to pursue a different source of stimulation, and over time, that learning changed how a man experiences the people and the things that he cares about the most. So if you feel that change, I want you to know this mechanism's at play, and that hijacker, he's in there. But here's where things get exciting. Hijacked brains that are miswired can be rewired, because that same brain that learned that old pattern, it can learn a new one. That's the power of neuroplasticity. Your brain is constantly adapting to what you repeatedly do, think, and experience, which means rewiring starts with awareness, with intention, with recognizing the loop and choosing not to feed it. Then, and only then, can you begin to rebuild the system. Better sleep, exercise, sunlight, healthy sources of dopamine, real connection, meaningful goals, purpose. Instead of constantly draining the nervous system, you start giving it the inputs it was designed to thrive on. No more survival, thrival, here you come. And over time, something remarkable happens. The reward system begins recalibrating. Real life starts feeling rewarding again. Connection feels richer. Presence comes back. Motivation returns. The things that matter most begin competing and winning again against the artificial rewards that once hijacked your brain. I want to be honest with you though. Sometimes people's brains become so dysregulated that it's very difficult to fully stabilize and rewire it on your own. And that's where, in today's day and age, we can take advantage of something remarkable about the time we're living in. We live in an extraordinary era of advances in neuroscience and technology. So now we have tools that allow us to actually look at brain function and identify the patterns of dysregulation. And we can measure where the brain may be stuck. So instead of guessing, we can map it. We can identify signs of overstimulation, reward system dysfunction, anxiety, attention problems, and nervous system instability. We can see it in the brain performance patterns. What we can see is the symptoms that come from those patterns. And then, of course, we can do something about it. Because technology doesn't just have the force to miswire the brain, it also has the power to rewire it. Using neuromodulation technology, brain modulation, changing technology, we can help the brain move out of dysregulation and back toward regulation. We can help restore healthier patterns of attention, arousal, motivation, and emotional stability. Because brain performance is what matters to affect this change. Presence matters, your relationships matter, your purpose matters. You matter, my friend, the life you want and deserve. That's why we're doing this. And if technology helped contribute to the hijack, it's worth knowing that technology can also become a vital, crucial part of the rewire. The goal isn't just to stop the damage. The goal is to build a brain that works for you instead of against you. This is where the story starts getting exciting. Because as the brain rewires, the desensitization gap begins to close. The reward system, it starts recalibrating. Real life begins feeling rewarding again. Not because life changed overnight, but because your brain changed. The things that once felt flat start feeling meaningful. Connection feels richer, motivation returns, presence comes back online. Then you know what happens, right? You feel calmer, you feel more focused and energized. You're able to connect with the people that you care about, and you're able to have the experiences that actually matter to you. One of the most powerful things I hear from men during this process is this: I finally feel like myself again. Not a new version of themselves and not a new person, not a different person, but the person they were before the hijack. But for many men, the hijack happened in childhood before their brain fully developed. So this type of brain optimization may give them new experiences and actually move them closer to the person that they were always capable of becoming once their brain was given the opportunity to optimize and hardwire toward their full potential. That's what's waiting. Okay, now let's talk about your brain hack strategy for the week. I want you to pause and screenshot this because I want you to try a simple experiment this week. Here it goes. Ready? Sit down and watch one full movie from beginning to end. Seriously, just one movie by yourself, or you can watch it with someone that you genuinely enjoy being around. But here's the rule. No scrolling, no checking scores, no second screen, no gaming, no answering texts, no picking up your phone anytime through the movie. Just you, the movie, and your attention. Now pay attention to something far more important than the movie itself. What does your brain do during this experience? Do you find yourself reaching for your phone without thinking about it? Do you start feeling restless? Do you get the urge to multitask? Do you find yourself craving more stimulation? Do you struggle to stay engaged even though you're trying? Because this isn't really a movie test. This, my friend, is an attention test, a dopamine regulation test. It's a brain test. What you're measuring is whether your brain can comfortably stay with one thing for 2 hours without needing a stream of novelty or stimulation. Now, if you find that this feels harder than it used to, don't judge yourself. That's not what we're doing here. We're getting curious because it tells you something important. Your brain may be more overstimulated than you even realize. A regulated brain can absolutely stay present for a movie. A hijacked brain is constantly scanning for the next reward, the next distraction, the next artificially high hit of dopamine. It is being ruled by the hijacker, not your true self. So here's your challenge. Do the movie test this week, and then come back to this video and drop a comment below that says, I'm rewiring. Then in the comments, please tell me, honestly, how did your brain do? I want to know. I had a client tell me something I'll never forget. He said, Dr. Trish, I was sitting with my family the other night, laughing about something completely ordinary, and I realized it had been such a long time since I was present enough to actually enjoy just a subtle moment like that, and I knew exactly what he meant. Before he started rewiring, he described feeling flat, distracted, restless, never fully satisfied. He told me it felt like he was moving through life without really being in it and definitely not enjoying it. He was physically present, but mentally he was somewhere else almost all the time. He was always looking for the next thing, the next distraction, the next hit of stimulation. So we started working on his brain. We used brain mapping to identify the patterns that were in there driving his symptoms. We used neuromodulation and neurofeedback to begin retraining his nervous system. And little by little, he learned how to regulate from the inside out instead of escaping. His nervous system started calming down. The noise in his brain, it got quieter. His attention became steadier. The hijacker lost his grip. Real life stopped feeling so dull compared to the stimulation that he had inadvertently trained his brain to expect. And then one night, sitting at dinner with his family, it happened. Nothing extraordinary, no major breakthrough, no dramatic moment, just laughter around the dinner table. And suddenly he realized, I am actually here. And honestly, that's what so many men are really trying to get back, themselves. So imagine this, waking up feeling clear again, focused again, present again, enjoying time with your family instead of simply getting through it, feeling calm in your own body connected to your purpose. So let me leave you with this. Porn doesn't usually destroy a marriage overnight. It slowly hijacks the reward system and miswires the brain until the thing that matters most, your marriage, your family, your purpose, your presence, they stop feeling as rewarding as they should. Not because you stopped caring and not because you stopped loving the people around you, but because your brain adapted to a different level and a different source of reward. But the good news is that hijacked brains that have become miswired, they can be rewired. The same neuroplasticity that allowed the brain to learn the pattern in the first place, when directed differently, is the very thing that allows it to learn a new one. You can use your mind and your body with your brain hack strategy that I gave you, but if you are stuck, technology is available to assist, and I would be honored to help. So if somewhere during this video you found yourself thinking, I don't feel like myself anymore, please don't ignore that feeling. It's a sign. It's telling you something. And that's often the moment that a true rewire can begin. So if you'd like to understand what's actually happening in your brain, please go over to drtrishleigh.com. You can book a personal consultation with me. Together, I can help you identify whether your brain is in strained brain, drained brain, what pattern your brain is stuck in that is holding you back, my friend. You can see it with your own eyes. Because getting your marriage back often starts with getting yourself back first. So we want you to boot that hijacker out, get your brain back online, and then everything else becomes possible. Okay, don't forget to control your brain or it will control you. I'll see you next time.